Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. Here I am with rising star Oliver Squire, top UK player. He won the West Yorkshire Open. He won a bunch of super jackpots last year at the UK Open and in Cyprus. And he recently attained GM status by BMAB. So very impressive at a very young age. It makes me feel old. Hi Ollie, welcome to my channel.
Hi Dan, thanks for having me on. Yeah, I really appreciate what you're doing for the community.
Yeah, and you too. You are an ambassador for the young, Ollie. Let's go back to when you were even younger than you are now, and tell me, do you remember your first ever game of backgammon?
It was probably when I was about 7 years old. I had like a compendium of board games. So like there was Ludo and Solitaire on one set and chess, and on the other side of the chessboard was a backgammon board. And I remember just playing casually with my parents when I was little.
Oh, fantastic! That was your first entry into the world of backgammon.
I suppose, yeah.
And what was it about backgammon that held your attention?
I've always liked dice and dice games. Found dice and probability quite fascinating.
Mhm.
How the dice distribution always tends towards the correct distribution over time. Sometimes I found myself at home just rolling dice over and over again and like trying to see how many times it takes me to roll like a triple or something, and seeing and then comparing that to the probability distribution. I've always found dice games quite interesting.
Oh, fantastic. So would you say it's a natural curiosity? Is it something you maybe pick up from your parents? Are they also into dice games like yourself?
I think it's just a natural curiosity. Parents, not so much, but we've always played backgammon, and I've always enjoyed strategy games as well. And there's a lot of that in backgammon. There's so much to learn with the strategy, as well as the excitement of the dice and everything.
Absolutely. It's interesting. So you started off playing the compendium, and then at what point did you think, oh, I'm quite good at this? I might go to a tournament. How long did that take?
So I just played backgammon on and off, like with my parents, like from since I was about seven, but I had no idea how to play. Basically, we were just like stacking up checkers on the 6 point, trying to just mix the checkers around into the board. But it was like after my GCSEs in the summer of 2016 where I started taking it a bit more seriously. I started playing games with my dad, and then I looked up strategies on the internet, how to get better, because I wanted to try and beat him. So yeah, I looked up strategies, and I found videos on YouTube like of tournament matches, Mochi playing, and tried to work out the reasons behind the moves he was doing. And and then after a while, I started reading books and things like that.
Do you remember the first backgammon book you read? Or
Yeah, it was after my first tournament in Blackpool in 2017. Someone told me about Bill Roberti's 501 backgammon problems.
Mhm.
So I bought that, and I remember reading it on like the bus journeys to and from college. And that was the real gateway for me to like improve my learning. So,
Yeah, fantastic book and really succinct, analysis in that book. So, was that your first tournament you said in Blackpool?
yeah, the Blackpool Imperial Cup. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great tournament, one I've been to myself.
You know,
How did you feel going to that tournament, your first tournament? Do you remember how you
yeah,
felt?
I was pretty nervous, but I was warmly welcomed by the organisers,
Mhm.
Kevin Jones and John Wright. And actually, Brian Lever gave me a practice game before the tournament. Unfortunately, he sadly passed away recently, but yeah, he was really kind to give me a practice game, and I felt welcomed into the community.
Wonderful, yeah. All great people you mentioned there, and I lost to a backgammon community in Brian Lever. I mean, I actually played in myself at the Blackpool tournament a couple of years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
I remember blundering a double four play, and then afterwards Brian Lever set up the position from memory, and then told me what I should have done, and I was like, wow, that was like half an hour ago. It's just completely
Yeah,
set it
yeah,
up.
it was an amazing mind, Brian. Yeah.
Do you remember how well you did in that tournament, your first one?
I got to the last 16, so I did quite well, which probably encouraged me to play more tournaments after that.
That's impressive. First tournament, last 16, and it's a big field, Blackpool, isn't it? 128, is it? Or normally they go.
I think there was just 108 players that year, but normally it's around 128 something.
So you got to the last 16, very good, and then that was the spur, the motivation to go to more tournaments.
I suppose so, yeah. But I know I just got very lucky to get to lot 16. I was absolutely terrible at backgammon at that point.
How well were you playing back then? What do you think your PR was for that tournament?
Probably around 7 or something.
Okay, well, I mean that's good by some standards. So now obviously you're playing below a 4. You recently was awarded Grandmaster status on BMAP. So a big well done, Oliver. Massive achievement at a young age, and something like a lot of players, aspire, towards. They go to BMAP tournaments. They're trying to grind down their PR, but you achieved, what many people don't achieve. So how did you feel when you got that kind of GM title?
Well, I've been working towards it for a long time, so I felt like really pleased. Yeah, it was a big achievement to get past that threshold. Ever since the first BMAP tournament I went to in 2019, like I thought I was playing around a 4, but I don't think I really was. I think my true average was around 4.5. So I was going for GM as soon as I started playing BMAP. But it's taken several years since then to actually get my true average down below a 4 with a lot of hard work and time.
That's interesting. So you said your first BMAP was around a 4.5.
Yeah.
Like a master, is that like an M1 level at BMAP?
Yeah.
But then it took several more years to get it from 4.5 to a sub 4, right?
Yeah. I think I underestimated the amount of work it would take.
So how much work does it take? Just give the audience an idea of how many hours you put in to backgammon.
I'd say on average I just spend around 2 hours a day on average for the past 6 years or so. They'll go through periods of spending more time or less time. I would say around 2 hours a day of something backgammon related.
Okay, and what do you do in those 2 hours specifically? Can you just talk us through what happens?
Well, it's either playing a match online and then going through the match and analysing my blunders and logging them in a blunder database, or it's reading a book, or playing in tournaments and recording my matches and analysing them.
Okay, let's say then you read a chapter of the book. What do you do then? Do you set up the positions on XG, or what happens with that knowledge?
So I just come across a blunder and I try and work out if it's like a lack of understanding I have, or if it's just like a mind slip in the moment. And if it's like a lack of understanding, I just try to play around with the position and see what features affect it. Like I can question, well, is it this in the position that makes it a blunder, and then just test it out, and then I normally find out why it was a blunder, and then I log it in like a category in a blunder database, which helps me remember it for the future.
Okay. So you have this blunder database. Is that something you revisit quite often, that database, or?
Not really, to be honest. I probably should, but I kind of just log the blunder away and never really revisit it. I occasionally go over. I occasionally look back in some of the folders, but I don't do it on a regular basis.
I see. And your database, how do you set it up? Do you have opening game, mid game, end game, or is it a bit more in depth?
I've got about just 30 categories of checker play categories and about 20 cube categories. So, like an example is just like hit or not, or like ace point game, one man back,
Right.
things like that. Just different types of positions.
Okay. And what about your cube ones? Are they just match score categories, or what? How do you
I've got one match score category, but all the others are just like money game categories, like prime versus prime, prime versus blitz, all sorts of things. Yeah.
So I think even the act of categorizing positions into subcategories is really a good learning in itself. Knowing where to put things.
Yeah, just the act of logging it helps with learning and memory, I think.
Do you think you have a good memory, Ollie?
Yeah, I've always had a decent memory. Yeah, I've always been able to remember the answers to questions like out of textbooks quite easily for exams and stuff like that. And I've memorized pi to like 150 digits and things.
As you do. I mean,
yeah, I've always been quite good at just like being able to remember things, especially if it's something that's like has an emotional effect, like a big blunder I've made in a match and I'm kind of annoyed at myself because of it. I will normally remember it if it comes up again.
Okay. Let's say you played, an 11-pointer. You made a blunder in match 3. Would you be able to set that up from memory?
If I thought about the decision for long enough, I might be able to. Like, because if I'm thinking about the position, I'll be thinking about all the features of the position, and I'll be able to reconstruct the position from memory. But I don't have like a photographic memory or anything like that.
Yeah.
I could just sometimes be able to reconstruct it from what I've been thinking about.
So, do you remember? I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, Ollie. Do you remember a big blunder you made? It could be this year, last year, like something that, a big blunder, and in a match.
Well, obviously, I've made a couple of oversight blunders, which are just massive when you just miss something completely.
Yeah.
Like sometimes when I'm playing on a big board that's maybe like quite colourful, I sometimes miss like a checker in the corner of the boards on the opponent's midpoint. Like they'd broken the midpoint and they had a blot left there. And I rolled a double 1 from the bar, and I didn't see that I could hit on the 12 point. It was something like, well, it was only a 300 blunder, which is like kind of small for an oversight, but it's still pretty big. I did make an 800 blunder actually online because I missed a hit with a 1-6.
Ouch. We've all done it. Yeah, me too. And sometimes online, you kind of can fall into autopilot a little bit, can't you? And then miss something.
Yeah. In terms of like actually where I've not missed it, I've been making quite a few like match score cube blunders recently, so that's something I need to work on. I'm gonna memorize Tim Cross's traffic light system. I think that's going to be useful for me to improve my match score cubes.
Yeah, no, very good system. Absolutely. Shout out to Tim Cross on that. So match score cubes are difficult, sure. I think the best players in the world, can struggle with some of those decisions. How do you practice that? I mean, how do you get better at it? What do you do exactly?
I suppose you just play a lot of matches online on like Galaxy, and then just analyze your decisions. And if you keep making the same mistake often enough at a certain score, it'll just end up sticking in your mind. But apart from that, like Tim Cross's traffic light system will be a really good thing to learn. Just like having a number for each match score, depending on how aggressive or passive you should be, and also thinking about like the match score considerations, like if recubes will have like overflow on the match or something, you should be way less likely to recube in those situations. So.
Yeah, so thinking about overage and things like that. It's interesting. I mean, one I'm really interested in, and I'm sure people who watch this will be, is there's many players are at a master level, but Grandmaster level seems just out of reach, a little bit elusive. So, how did you get from like master to Grandmaster? Can you say any more about that? What sort of things did you do?
I didn't do anything special, to be honest. I just kept doing the same stuff I was doing, just playing matches, analysing them, and eventually just over time you just gradually improve upon things and not make the same mistakes as you would make in the past. And eventually your PR just gets down and gradually gets below 4.
But for a lot of players, it's more about consistency, isn't it? So some players will say, well, I can play a match at a 2 or 3 PR on a good day, but on other days I'm playing a 7 or 8. So
I think being mentally fit and healthy is important as well. I've just recently started running regularly, which I think has helped me to be a bit more consistent with my PRs, and I think it helped me get that 3 in the last BMAV I went to, because I wasn't really feeling as tired as I used to at the end of the day, because I think my mind's a bit more fit from like running and stuff.
That's a good point. So do you think there is a correlation between fitness and performance rating in backgammon?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because if you're slightly unfit, it might be the difference between like making an oversight or not, which can be massive for your PR. So.
I mean, Will Snellings, who was actually my first guest on the channel, he spoke a lot about, go out, get some air, do some breathing exercises, move around, don't drink too much coffee. Little kind of things you can do to get small edges when you play.
Yeah. So I try and like do a meditation before each day when I'm playing a tournament. It helps me set my mind in the right place, I think.
Oh, it's interesting. And so the UBC is kind of coming up soon, and you're going to be playing in that, aren't you, Ollie? Yeah.
Yeah.
So big tournament, best players in the world. Obviously, you are one of the best players in the UK, and you deserve that recognition in a big international tournament. How are you preparing for the UBC? What are you doing?
So I'm playing some matches on Galaxy and analysing them. I'm playing a few matches with Ryan Rebello actually recently, which is cool. And I'm reading some books. I'm in the middle of Mitchie's Back Checker Strategy book that I've just started, and Dirk's Theory of Backgammon. I'll try and get them read by the time I go to the UEC.
Amazing, yeah. I had Mitchie actually on the channel. Check out that video. He came on, talked about the butterfly anchor, which appears in Back Checker Strategy. What other books? Tell me some more books you've been reading or have read in the past that have helped.
So Mark Olson's Pure Strategy was really good. Cube Like a Boss.
That's some good ones.
Yeah. There's quite a few. Some I've started but haven't finished, like Book A 3-1 by Nak Ballard and I can't remember Paul Weaver is the other guy's name. It's quite a good book. I'm in the middle of it, but I haven't finished it yet. It's all about how to play 3-1 in the opening and all the little intricacies behind why you should make the 5.0 hiss and things like that.
Yeah, I really like his work, Nak Ballard, and he often posts positions up on the forum, and then he shows how the checker plays changes a gammon go, gammon save, DMP, and so on. He was actually going to write a second part to that book, wasn't he? It was going to be a second.
Yeah, about how to play 4-2, but it never came out, unfortunately.
We should, have a lobby, for that book release. So you read a lot. You tell me a bit more about your analysis. So you play a match. How long do you spend analysing that match afterwards?
Perhaps about the same time it took to play the match.
Okay, and how do you analyse? Do you go through every move, or just the errors, or what do you do?
So I try to look through every move. I just press the down key on XG and just look through every move. Because sometimes even moves that I've got right, I would have been unsure of. So it's sometimes good to look at moves you've got right, because you might still have misunderstandings even though you got it right. But I mainly focus on the blunders and why they were wrong. Yeah.
When you get to a blunder in your analysis, post-match analysis, do you play from position? You said earlier you manipulate and move things around to understand. But what other things do you use on XG? What other features that do you find helpful?
So generally, I don't play it from the position. I don't really see how that would be useful. I find the dice distribution enough. Just looking at the dice distribution is enough to kind of understand how the game will develop. You don't need to play the entire game out to be able to understand that. But yeah, sometimes the dice distribution is helpful because it helps you understand about the jokers and anti-jokers and if they're important in the position, or if it's just a general equity advantage you gain from the move rather than big swing rolls.
Yeah. I think it's a terrific feature, dice distribution, and I know people like Travis Roberts and Alex Eshagian are doing a lot of work on dice heat maps.
I saw the video you did with Alex actually. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
But I really think when you start seeing, like you said, those swing rolls, you can really glean a lot of understanding from the position. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you have a preferred match length? Do you prefer playing longer matches because it cancels out luck a bit more, or what do you prefer?
Not really. I play all sorts of matches really. I guess I like 9-pointers because they can have some interesting cube decisions in them more than 7-pointers or 5-pointers. Sometimes if you get you can get 8 cubes in.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I like to just get experience with all of them. Really, it depends how I'm feeling. If I feel like concentrating hard for a long period of time, or just have a quick match.
And how much do you adjust? Like, let's say you're in the UK Open, you're in the first round, you draw someone, and they're a weaker player than you. Do you deliberately complicate, the opening plays or bluff cube? Is that stuff you kind of do, or not so much?
In terms of adjusting, no, I'm not very well read on adjusting, to be honest. I just try and mainly play the XG plays. Mm-hmm. But if there's a move that I feel like it's quite close, I'll play the move that I would think leads to more complicated positions. And if I see that they're being quite passive with sending the cube, so I'll be more aggressive in sending them, because I'm not afraid of them sending me it back. And if they're more aggressive with sending the cube, I'll be more passive, because I can just wait for them to cube me when it's wrong, and then I could get into an advantageous position where a recube is more powerful. So
Yeah.
you can kind of judge like how the player's playing after the first couple of games in terms of the cube, sort of.
I think so, yeah. I mean, that is a kind of adjustment. Talking about cubing specifically, would you say you're quite a mathematical player? When you have a cube decision, are you crunching, equities, take points, or is it more kind of reference position and pattern? What do you say?
So it's quite rare that you actually get to a position where you're crunching like equities and stuff. That only really happens on like a last roll position or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But generally, it's just a general feeling. You just have to be intuitive about it. If it's stuff you've seen before, you'll be more confident about it.
So it is kind of recall. Is that what you're kind of saying? It recall.
Yeah, it's just memory and recall. Yeah.
It's interesting, really, because you have a player like Sander, who obviously fantastic player, but he's a very instinctive player.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark Olsen said that he doesn't use racing formulas. He just which I kind of find quite amazing in some ways. That how does he get by?
No idea. Maybe he's just a genius and can just kind of have the instincts for these things. But no, I need to like have more than that. I've seen it before and have references.
In terms of pip counting, do you keep a running pip count when you're playing? Is that something you do?
I try to at the start of the game, but sometimes if a lot of hitting goes on, there's no need to really keep track of it anymore, because the position is you kind of know if you're behind a lot, if you've been hit a lot from the start, and then I just recount it when I need to, when I feel like it's necessary.
And when you do recounts, do you tend to use cluster counting, comparison? Well, like, what method do you prefer?
I just use the half crossover method and then adjusting for symmetry. Mm-hmm. So I count the difference in half crossovers, times it by 3, and that gets an approximate pip count. And then you just look at the half crossovers and see how far or behind you are, like colorlessly within each crossover, and then that gets the exact count. You do that 4 times.
And are you pretty fast? How fast can you do a pip count? What do you say?
Maybe about 15 seconds. So.
Okay, pretty good.
Pretty slow, to be honest, compared to...
Pretty good for me. Yeah. But I guess practice, like all things. Let's think about your opponents. So you're in a tournament. What sort of mistakes do you see people commonly make in tournaments? What do you say? What sort of things do people do that stand out?
Well, people make all sorts of mistakes. I don't know. It's a difficult question, really.
I've been thinking about this for future videos. I mean, I guess one thing for me that I see a lot is when someone opens with like a 6-2, for instance, and then a difference between playing 3-1 and 4-2. So 3-1 you make for 5 point, and 4-2 you hit on the bar for money.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And often people don't hit with a 4-2, they make the 4 point instead.
So they just haven't studied their opening replies, basically.
Yeah, and I think small things like that are, quite easy things to remember, I guess. But they are slips, even though they are tiny errors. I guess in terms of cubing, what sort of mistakes do you see people make with cubing?
Well, different players make different mistakes. Like some players are too passive and just don't cube because they're unsure about when to cube. Mm-hmm. And some players are overly aggressive, trying to scare their opponent away or something. But I just try and make the correct decisions. It's always difficult to do. I suppose everyone's just trying to make the correct decisions, but some have more experience.
How do you like if you're playing, in the super jackpot like you do, and you're playing at a 3 PR, your opponent's playing at a 3 PR. How much is it just luck that decides a match? What do you say?
Yeah, it's pretty much all luck. If you're like within point two PR of each other, it's like the person who's got the luckiest will win the match.
You think so? And how do you kind of reconcile yourself to the luck factor? You play someone, they play a 10 PR, you play a 3 PR, and then they get +5 luck or whatever. How how do you stay cool headed, about that?
Well, if I know that I've played like quite well, then I'm happy with losing. But if I've played badly as well, like if I've played over a 5 and they've played a 10, I'll be annoyed at myself for losing the match because I could have done something better in order to give myself more chances of winning.
Yeah.
You can only blame yourself really for losing any match because you'll always have made mistakes. So just have to try and learn from it.
Yeah, good positive attitude. Are there any players you look up to? A lot of great UK players and obviously players overseas. Do any of them inspire you as a player?
Obviously, Mochi is really inspiring. Just his work ethic, and you can tell he's putting so much effort into all the matches that he plays, and like all the decisions within each match. Sometimes he spends like 2 minutes on like a decision that's like so like close between the two plays, and he somehow finds the play that's like slightly better. It's really inspiring to see that. But there's like all the great players I've been inspired by. Mochi, Michi, Sander, Thomas Tenland, Zed says, like
all the giants. Yeah.
Players.
Absolutely. I mean, amazing. Is it so? So what's next for you? You've got Grandmaster status. Where do you see yourself going? Because you're still young. You've got so many years ahead of you to keep ploughing away.
Yeah, I just want to try and reach my potential really with it. Like anything I commit to and set my mind to, I want to just see how far I can go with it. See what my potential is. So I'll just keep working at it and see how far I can get. I'm going to the UVC this year, and it'll be great to compete among so many great players. Be a great experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish you all the best. I mean, be a great event. Always good. The quality streaming by Galaxy, on that. Do you see like Super Grandmaster? Is that achievable for you? Can you see yourself reaching that?
Not sure if my brain's capable of doing that, but I don't know. I'm gonna work at it and see where I can get.
Yeah, because at the moment in the UK, there are a few G2 players, right? I think Seb and Aref and Tim. I think that's right.
Yeah. So G2 will be the next goal for me.
And how long do you think it'll take you to go from G3 to G2?
Well, perhaps the same amount of time it took me to go from M1 to G3. I'm not sure. Well, I don't know. It might take a few years if I put the same amount of effort in, or maybe I'll spend some more time working on it to try and speed up my progress. What
do you think you'd do, Ollie, if you didn't play backgammon? What would you be doing? Running, playing Catan or something? What?
Yeah, probably have found another strategy game that I'd be into. Yeah, it's perhaps chess. I've never got into chess, but I might have been all right at chess if I'd really practiced it and stuff.
Yeah. A lot of avenues. So
Yeah,
you are 23 years old. Is that correct, Ollie? 23. So, great achievement at your age to become a grandmaster. Like very, very good. And I'm pleased for you. Being a fellow UK player, I like to kind of champion, UK, players on my channel. What can we do to entice more young people into backgammon? Do you have any ideas? Any ways we can do that?
well, I think the past few years have been great for getting more players into it. What Mark is doing with Backgammon Galaxy, all the promotion he's doing with the UBC and his YouTube channel and everything. And yeah, I think just keep doing what we're doing, really. It would be really good if a lot of money could be pumped into it to kind of have some good online playing sites where you can play for money again with good anti-cheating measures and stuff like that. That might entice some young players, but I think we're probably a long way away from that at the minute.
Yeah, I know at the moment it is picking up. We have people like Reese Hodges, Luca Mills, and these are fierce competitors. Very strong players. And I know the UK Open, they added like a junior tournament or a youth tournament to the roster. Was that last year?
Yeah.
But do you think it's just investment? Is that going to be what's required most of all?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need a TV series. Like Queen's Gambit. We need one for backgammon.
Yeah, that would be really good.
It'd be great. We could, host a few people in it, and then suddenly everyone would be picking up a backgammon board and talking about it because it's older than chess, right? It's an older board game than chess. It's great fun, and anyone can beat anyone in backgammon, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is what makes it fun. What other things do you think we can do? I'm really interested in growing backgammon. That's part of the reason, I have the channel. Certainly younger people into the game is super important. Approaching schools, trying to have like backgammon clubs. What other things can we do, do you think, to grow the game, Ollie?
Yeah, just doing those things. I know like Andrew Selby and Mochi have been great for that, like promoting it in schools and stuff. But other than that, I don't really know. Just keep doing what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, Andrew Selby, absolutely. He's doing some things. And also, shout out to the UK BGF, putting on these events around the country. Lots of tournaments. You can check out the UK BGF website to see where the local clubs are. If there isn't a club in your area, then start a club, create a club.
Yeah.
Tell us about your club, Ollie. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we have a good club in St Anne's Backgammon Club. Me and my dad set it up in 2017, I think it was. And a lot of local people just come along and we have a good time. We play tournaments and we have 2 leagues set up. And people are really enjoying working on the game and improving and just having a good social time. It's good.
That's quite nice. So you mix it up. You have the league. You have tournaments. What sort of tournaments do you do? Kind of Swiss round robins. What sort of things?
Yeah, so we do round robin tournaments and sometimes double elimination. Usually like just 3-point tournaments to get them finished on the night.
And do you have people who come who are just beginners, never played before? Do you often get players that level?
Yeah, we get quite a few players that like haven't really played or played occasionally in the past and just want to come and learn again, and we like teach them again, and yeah, we have we have Division 3 in the league, which is basically for like beginners who yeah, so it's open for everyone really.
Is that something you're interested in yourself, kind of teaching? You know, taking students. Do you do that already?
I've got a couple of students I teach, yeah. But yeah, I'm interested in taking on a few more students in the future.
And I'm just intrigued, really. What does like a first lesson look like to a new student? What do you do?
We just like play a match and or a few matches, and then see some of the stuff they're doing wrong, and I just then come up with like a guidance plan of how to teach them how to improve on some of the things they're doing wrong.
Okay. Would you say it's more like a coaching style?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, I haven't really built a lesson plan yet, but that might be something I'm going to work on in the future.
yeah, but really helpful coaching with a grandmaster. I mean, I can put your details in the video description, Ollie, and you know if you're interested, audience, in maybe a lesson, then hit him up.
Yeah, for sure.
When you play backgammon, do you wear headphones when you play? Ollie, can't remember when I've seen you.
No, I don't. I don't wear headphones.
Any particular reason why?
Well, I don't really like listening to music while I'm working. I find it quite distracting, listening to music. But there are like noise cancelling headphones you can get that just block out the noise and that don't have music. But I don't know. I've never tried it out really. I feel like there'll always be distractions anyway. You can't block out like all distractions. So I think just like immersing yourself in the full scene might be good practice anyway. I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of like that. You kind of get into your kind of Zen state, as Mitchy calls it. Yeah. So, what about baffle boxes? What do you think about those? What's your opinion on the controversial baffle box?
Yeah, I suppose they are the future. Really, we're going to have to adopt them more in the future to avoid people trying to do sleight of hand things with the dice and things like that. And they also save time shaking and rolling. You don't land on top of checkers as much and stuff like that. So.
Now, the reason I mention this is on social media, someone posted up a video of a match where you called someone out on cheating, which you saw, and then it got hundreds of comments. So, first of all, well done, Ollie, for catching that, but also having the courage to address it over the board. I mean, how did you feel kind of in that moment, acknowledging that the other person was cheating?
Well, I was just a bit confused, really, in the moment. I was confused as to what had happened. I saw something for a split second, the dice outside of the cup, as it was being rolled, and I knew something wasn't quite right with it. So I just knew I had to intervene and stop the match and say something about it. And fortunately, it got dealt with by the ruling committee.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I mean,
this person was disqualified, and yeah, I felt in the moment I was just like kind of going through the motions of what I felt I had to do. I didn't feel very emotional in about it in the moment.
I think
yeah.
I think that's fantastic, really, to call that out because some players might feel um, intimidated, possibly,
Mm.
or it's not their place, and you can always call the TD over. If you even doubt something has happened in a match in a
Yeah,
tournament, then that's what you should do. You should,
yeah,
Um,
yeah. If you're in any sort of doubt, you should um, just stop and call the TD over.
yeah, I think so. But that was a pretty flagrant act of cheating, which
Mm.
you did very well to see, because even in the recording, it's very easy to miss. Um, so you've got supersonic supersonic sight.
But
Um,
yeah, it was a lot easier to see from the angle I was at, I think, than it was on the video, and also like a few things had added up during the match to make me a bit suspicious about him already. So
yeah,
like he tried to, for example, take a four cube onto two in his side, for example, and then when I pointed out, tried to drop the cube as well. So there's a few things.
yeah,
Um,
naughty. But really good job, honestly. Great to see that stuff
yeah,
happening. They
but to spread the awareness to the community about this trick as well, so more people will be able to spot it in the future.
Now, what is the actual trick? Just say a little bit more about that if people aren't aware.
So what happens is the drag the dice. Well, they pick up the dice in a way that conceals it, one of the dice in the finger, and they put the other dice in the cup, and they shake with like both hands with one of the dice in the finger. And as they roll, they basically just roll one dice and throw the other one out of the fingers onto the board to make it look like the other one's also rolled onto the board as well. But they basically just thrown it onto the number they want.
Yeah, because I think in the moment he needed a 3 to hit, and then that was a
Yeah.
number he placed onto the board.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are some telltale signs. So one, the sound of two dice shaking in a cup is different to one die shaking.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
also,
think that might have been something that also tipped me off. Maybe I heard the sound of one dice shaking in the cup.
yeah, absolutely. Oh, my dog is barking. Excuse me. He wants to join the call. But also, the two dice should travel across the board. They shouldn't just be dropped out of the cup.
Yeah, but actually, like earlier in the match, he did the same thing, and sometimes both the dice were traveling across the board, even though but he was basically throwing one onto the board, so it was spinning as well. So he made it look like it had been rolled out of the cup. So sometimes if they're quite skilled at it, it can still look like it's actually traveling across the board, even though it's just been like kind of flicked onto it.
Yeah. I think, like we mentioned earlier, if there is any doubt, give a TD over, particularly in a tournament, because a lot of this stuff goes undetected. And who's to say how many times this person has cheated with other players who maybe were not as perceptive, to those kind of moments.
Yeah. It must have happened many, many times before I caught it, I think.
Yeah. So well done. Anyway, what other things are going on with you in Backgammon in the future? What are you doing? Where are you going? What's happening?
Well, I'm going to the UBC and the Estabda tournament at the end of this month, and I might try and get down to the World Championships. That would be cool.
In Monte Carlo.
Yeah.
Have you been before to that one?
No, I've never been. No.
So that's the next big thing. Win MC. Yeah, why not? Win UBC. How did you do the UBC last year, Ollie? I can't remember.
No, it'll be the first time I go to the UBC this year.
How do you feel playing, top players, drawing Mochi, drawing Tenland, How do you feel about that? Does that excite you? Do you prefer playing
Yeah,
stronger players?
yeah, it kind of excites me. It inspires me to try really hard to play my best game. I feel like I play better against better players generally.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I also like it. I like a strong draw, and
mm,
then you can have a chat after the match. And often, top players are very gentlemanly,
yeah.
and they play professionally, and they don't get into any mishaps over the board. Um, what else, Ollie? Let's just talk for a few more minutes. Kind of one about your GM status. I really want to know like how. I know BMAB has below 4. You become a GM, but how would you define a Grandmaster exactly? What is a Grandmaster?
I don't know. I don't think you become anything special once you're a grandmaster. It's literally just your average PR is below 4. It's like it's not much difference between your average PR being 4.1 or below 4. But it's just like I guess you're just a slightly better player, right? And you have to draw the line somewhere on what a grandmaster is. But I don't feel like I'm anything special because of it. Um,
Why is it so sought after then? Is that just ego, vanity? Like, why do people aspire for that so much?
um, I don't know really. It's something to it's it's a title to work towards. Yeah, I don't really know to be honest.
Yeah. Well, it's still a great achievement, and it is kudos, and it is testament to your hard work, your diligence, over the board. As you were saying, playing 2 hours every day regularly is 14 hours a week backgammon, right? Um, which is a lot. If you keep that up over weeks and months, then you're going to get better, aren't you?
Mhm.
But I think it's practicing in the right kind of way, um, by using your database, like you mentioned, by manipulating blunders you've made. Um, that's all important. And speaking to people in tournaments, I think what's important is the community in backgammon. I've been to a lot of tournaments, and people are nice. Like it's nice seeing people and chatting to them, and you win some matches, you lose some matches, but there's a community at work,
Mhm.
which is growing, and that's great to see, and hopefully the future will be brighter and bolder, and there'll be a Netflix version. um, who's to say? um, Ollie, thank you so much for coming on my channel, talking to me about backgammon, about GM, about things you're doing. Um,
Yeah, cheers. It's been great. Yeah, thanks for
um,
having me. Yeah,
you're welcome. Yeah, and I've seen you at a bunch of tournaments as well. Always nice to see you, and I've shown you positions. We've had a chat about them. So guys, audience, if you see Ollie at a tournament, then chat to him. you know, he's a real person. And ask him, about stuff. I'm sure you won't mind. And yes, if you're interested in a lesson with him, then like I said, message him, hit him up. Anything else, Ollie, before we call it a day?
no, I think that's fine. That's good.
Okay, one final question then before we go. What makes backgammon beautiful for you? What's the attraction?
Uh, it's just the amount of learning you get from it. I think it's a great game. It teaches you how to be patient and just take what you got and just try to do the best you can do with it. Um, and of course, it brings a great sense of community. And yeah, it's just a beautiful game, I think.
Thank you so much, Ollie. Great to see you. Thanks for coming on and chatting. See you at the next tournament.
Cheers, son. See you.
All the best. Goodbye.
All the best. Bye.